Welcome to the global news on October 1st, 2021. And today, again, we have to go to Pyongyang in North Korea. On Tuesday, North Korea fired an initially unknown projectile into the open sea. Now reports are loud that it was said to have been a newly developed weapon. The rocket fired on Tuesday by the self-declared nuclear power North Korea claims to have been a newly developed so-called hypersonic missile. This was reported by the South Korean news agency Yonhap, citing the North Korean news agency KNCA. The North Korean Academy of Defense Sciences fired the Hwasong-8 missile from Shanghai province. The new missile has a strategic importance for self-defense capabilities, it said. At a party meeting in late 2019, North Korea ruler Kim Jong-un threatened that the world would experience a new strategic weapon in the near future. Hypersonic describes speeds above 5 times the speed of sound. That means around 6,180 kilometers per hour. On Tuesday, the South Korean military announced that North Korea had fired a short-range missile into the open sea. It was unclear how far the missile flew and what type of missile it was. UN resolutions prohibit North Korea from testing ballistic missiles, which, depending on their design, can also carry a nuclear warhead. The National Security Council in South Korea expressed its regret over the new missile test in the neighboring country. North Korea had already fired 2 short-range missiles a good 2 weeks ago. South Korean President Moon Jae called the test a provocation. For years, Pyongyang has been promoting the development of missiles that not only hit South Korea and Japan, but also can carry nuclear warheads as far as the United States. The country has declared itself a nuclear power. However, in light of the negotiations on its controversial nuclear program, its status is being kept open. However, the US negotiations with North Korea have not progressed for more than 2.5 years. And now let's go to London in the United Kingdom. Next, one of Britain's biggest clothing retailers, I've got underwear from them, I know, warned it may struggle to deliver its normal service in the run-up to Christmas unless the government relaxes post-Brexit immigration rules to allow more workers in the country. Britain is already facing disruption caused by worker shortages. A dearth of truck drivers in the world's 5th largest economy is already threatening fuel supplies and has led to some gaps on supermarket shelves, with many blaming Brexit, and that rightfully, I must say. Next, led by the Brexit-backing Simon Wolfson, who has previously warned against cutting immigration, said on Wednesday that its clothing and homeware stores and online shop could be affected in the run-up to Christmas, Britain's peak buying season. We anticipate that without some relaxation of immigration rules, we are likely to experience some degradation in our services in the run-up to Christmas, the retailer said in its half-year results statement. Finding staff for warehousing and logistics jobs for the peak season was beginning to come under pressure, it said. And by the way, the underwear I bought when I was living there, long before the referendum. Next hopes that Britain will temporarily allow foreign workers to come to the UK, reversing post-Brexit labour rules. To tackle the shortage of drivers, the government last week said it would issue temporary visas to 5,000 foreign drivers. Media reported on Monday that warehouses in Britain are having to pay up to 30% more to recruit staff after worker shortages exacerbated pressure on already buckling supply chains and threatened to derail the seasonal buying spree. Next said its stock levels were currently down 12% compared with the period before the pandemic, but it said it had got better at operating with less stock. And now we have to go to Moscow in Russia. Even after the parliamentary elections, Russian authorities continue to take action against Alexei Navalny, the Kremlin opponent who's being held in a prison camp. Russia's investigative authority announced on Tuesday that new investigations into founding and participating in an extremist community had been initiated against the 45-year-old. Several well-known supporters of Navalny are also being investigated, including the lawyer Lyubov Sobol and the oppositionists Ivan Zdanov and Leonid Volkov, who live abroad. In June, a Russian court, despite international criticism, classified the Anti-Corruption Fund and other organizations as extremist and thus banned them. Critics complained that supporters of the opposition should be politically eliminated. Navalny, who barely survived a poison attack last year, has been detained in a prison camp around 100 kilometers east of Moscow since the beginning of the year for a different sentence. A corresponding judgment from February is criticized as politically motivated. The Kremlin critics lawyers calculated at the time that he could be released in the summer of 2023. However, his supporters now fear that Navalny could remain in custody much longer. Navalny's press spokeswoman Kira Yarmysh wrote on Tuesday on Twitter, with a view to the Duma elections more than a week ago, "Everyone asked if the pressure would ease after the elections. Well, here is the answer. It is the fourth criminal case against Navalny that has been opened since his imprisonment." And now we go to Milan in Italy. At the opening of a youth climate summit in Milan, the activist Greta Thunberg criticized the international environmental policy of the past decades as being insubstantial. "We only hear words from our so-called leaders," said the Swede on Tuesday at the start of the three-day event. And she said, "The words sounds good, but have so far not led to any action." Instead, according to Thunberg, governments would shamelessly congratulate themselves on inadequate commitments to reduce emissions and funding promises. "The dreams and hopes of future generations have been drowned with empty words and promises. The conscious lack of action is a betrayal of all present and future generations," Thunberg continued. And she said, "Of course we need constructive dialogue, but so far there has only been blah 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 for 30 years, and where has that led us?" What does she know about the last 30 years? I'm just asking. Around 400 young activists from 186 countries were expected at the meeting in Italy, which is being used in preparation for the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow in just over a month. The meeting was organized by the Italian government in collaboration with Great Britain. The aim is a joint declaration on how one can counteract climate change more efficiently in the future. "When I think of climate change, I also think of jobs, green jobs," said Thunberg, who was there last week at a large Fridays for Future rally in Berlin. "A transition to a more environmentally friendly economy must be found," she urged in Milan. "There is no planet B, there is no planet blah blah blah, green economy blah blah, CO2 neutrality by 2050 blah blah," she said. What idea does she have about how economy and everything works? That's what I'm always asking myself. But now let's go to Shanghai. China has allowed 2 Americans who had been detained for more than 3 years to return to their homeland. As the Hong Kong newspaper South China Morning Post reported on Tuesday, siblings Victor and Cynthia Liu flew out of Shanghai on Saturday. The travel date indicated that they were part of a deal that allowed the chief financial officer of Chinese tech company Huawei, Meng Wanzhou, to return to China. The top manager was arrested in Canada in December 2018 at the request of the US authorities. The US government accused her, among other things, of bank fraud. However, Meng Wanzhou was allowed to return to China on Saturday. 2 Canadians also left China on Saturday. They have been held in the country since Meng Wanzhou was arrested. Numerous states had accused China of hostage diplomacy because of the arrests of Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig. The Americans Victor and Cynthia Liu had already been banned from leaving the country in June 2018. According to media reports, they were able to move freely in China, but were not allowed to return to their homeland. According to the South China Morning Post, citing the siblings' lawyer, They were detained because the Chinese authorities were looking for their father in connection with a fraud case. However, according to their own statements, neither of them had any contact with him for a long time. And since when, since at least hundreds of years ago, is it a good thing to keep the family hostage for something another family member did? I thought we were moving away from that a long time ago. Well, in the Western democracies we did. I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.